The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. We greet all those who join us this morning, those here in our sanctuary, all of our many online viewers, así como el creciente número de participantes bilingües que nos acompañan desde sus hogares. Mask wearing in the sanctuary is currently optional, but you are encouraged to continue to wear yours if you are more comfortable doing so. I invite newcomers to join us for coffee and conversation in Channing Hall after the service, and I invite members to seek out someone you have not yet met so you can make a new friend. Now, Jolie's out with a slight cold, nothing serious, but she has left our music in the most capable hands of Symphony and Chelsea, so please join them for our first hymn.
Good morning, everybody. Let's sing, shall we? If you could please turn in your gray hymnals to number 361. That's 361 in your gray hymnals. Please rise and join me in body and or spirit as we sing hymn number 361. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song.
Are there certain things that endure? The sun rises, the same moon shines, the earth spins on her axis, the planets dance across the Milky Way, gravity fixes us to the floor. Do bodies shift? Oh, how much change there is. The transience of me, the transience of you. The tree is different each time. Bud becomes a leaf. The leaf flecks brown and falls, turning to dirt. Flowers cycle from seed to blossom to fruit to seed. Shall we praise the transient, this life, that thunderstorm? Shall we praise the permanent? Is there anything that persists across eternity? We gather this morning a community humbly casting questions, gathering without creed, seeking understanding, but wary of ultimate answers. You cannot step in the same river twice. What was true today might not be true tomorrow. We gather this morning a community for inquiry, for exploration, for questing after the holy, the sacred, the divine, the truth, whatever we might name it. We gather this morning certain, changing, questioning, and maybe, sometimes, even finding something worth sharing. Come, friends, may the spirit of sharing grow amongst us in this hour, and let us worship together.
Please join with me in reciting our congregational covenant found in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
I'd like to invite the young people to come forward. Sometimes we tell a story before we sing you out, but today we have something extra special. We've got the question box service today. People have been putting questions in this red box. Don't be shy. I'd love for some of you all to come forward, because I'm going to need some help here in a minute, too. People have been putting questions in this red box for several weeks that Reverend Colin is going to answer. Now, you know, our church is a little different than some churches. What we try to do is guide you to ask really thoughtful questions so that you can figure out what you believe and what you think. So first thing I'm going to do, we've put two special questions in the box right now. And what I'm going to do, who would like to help by pulling out one of the questions? Your hand was up first. There's two questions in here. Pull one of them out. All righty. Hand it to me. All right. Thank you. You can sit back down. Or you can stand there. Shoot, I don't care. This one was asked by Symphony, our wonderful intern. So I will ask Reverend Colin, what instrument would you be and why?
So I'm realizing, hi guys, how are you all doing this today? Good. Thanks for coming up. So the question that I'm answering, do you guys all know what a record player is? Yes. Okay. Your dad plays record players all the time. Good. So I would be 2 record players and a mixing board. Do you guys know what a mixing board is? Yes. Right? So you take 2 record players and you mix back and forth. You take some sounds from this record player, and you take some sounds from that record player, and you make a new song from the existing record player. That would be the instrument that I would be.
Cool. Okay, now we're going to really try and stump him, because we're going to ask you all to think of a question off the top of your head, and really you can ask either him or me. So who has a really good question? You raised your hand. Is it for Reverend Colin or for me? Both of us. Okay.
Well, Scott, why don't you answer this one, and then I'll answer the next one.
Okay.
How many UU churches exist around the world?
You've stumped me already. I do not know the answer to that. Do you have an estimate?
I'm doing some math right now. So there's about 500,000 adult members of Unitarian Universalists across the world. And churches... There's 1,000 churches in the United States and 35 in Canada, and like 15 scattered throughout Latin America, and 150 in the United Kingdom, and another 35 in Ireland. So
there's some in Thailand, right?
No, but in Japan there's 3. So I'm not, I actually kind of know the answer to this, but I don't know the total sum, and it would take us a long time to go country by country, come up with the answer.
He's much better at statistics than I am, so.
There's probably about 2,500 maybe.
Okay. Does somebody, that was a very good question. Does somebody else have a question?
No? Oh, okay. All right, we've got 2. So, well, you picked something out of the box, so why don't we let Hazel ask the question?
Okay. Who built this church?
Well, that's the members of the congregation paid for the church to be built back in the 1950s. And then they paid for the church to be remodeled again in the 1990s. And we're getting ready right now to do a big capital campaign in the fall so that the members of this church can remodel the church again. All right. Oh, well, I guess we're going to do one more question.
One more. This will have to be the last one, because this is so much fun. We could do it all day.
Palaces are there throughout the church?
Throughout this church building? I'll be honest, Tawana keeps buying more. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I didn't. So I'd say about a dozen. Plus, As Griffin points out, there's one on each and every member badge. So I was just thinking of the physical. Well, it's real. So, okay, thank you all for great questions.
I wanted to say that this was really fun, and I hope that you will know that they're here all the time, and you can ask them questions any Sunday where you see them.
That's a good point.
Right? And today, if you had one that you thought of that you weren't sure you wanted to ask in front of the whole group here, okay? So, and now...
Yes. Now we are going to sing you all out with Carol. Carol, who we're welcoming back, by the way. It's good to see her smile. So, if everyone would look for the lyrics to As You Go in your orders, the adults will sing that as the young folks head out. This is the time during the service when we pause for contemplation. The heat and summer activities fluster us. The altered patterns of our lives distract us. And so, with intention and care, we carve out this time to enter into a time of quietness. It may be the sole time this week when we have the chance to silence our minds and still our hearts. This is a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, we have so many questions. Despite our advancements and best efforts, it seems like our world is taking one step forward and two steps back. With heartache and humility, we wonder why. We have always craved knowledge. One of the earliest stories in the Hebrew Bible tells of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, whose fruit was forbidden. But later in Isaiah, we read, "Come now, let us reason together, says the Lord." We hear the words of Galileo, who declared, "I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. But we know we will not gain all the knowledge we crave. Much is beyond our grasp and understanding. Grant us the humility to accept our humanness. But we can strive to gain understanding, if not knowledge. Help us to gain the ability to be more understanding of others and ever more kind and loving. We hear the words of Rilke, who told his protege to be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart and to try to love the questions themselves. The point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Help us with love and humility to live and love the questions now, knowing if not answers, we may be given a greater understanding of how to live in a world with so many unanswered questions. Help us to know that we may learn from the experience of asking, even if we do not get an answer, and especially if we do not get the answer we are anticipating. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. A memorial service for longtime member Cynthia Conwell is being planned for July 29th at 11 a.m. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those who we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is the Montrose Center. Since 1978, the Montrose Center has helped LGBTQ+ youth and adults live healthy, actualized lives with the tools and resources they need to feel affirmed. The organization provides an array of programs and services, including mental and behavioral health, anti-violence services, support groups, and specialized services for youth, seniors, and those living with HIV. It now operates the nation's largest LGBTQ-affirming, affordable senior living center in the nation, the Law Harrington Senior Living Center. As the politics of hate make living in Texas more and more dangerous for sexual minorities, especially the trans community, our support of organizations like the Montrose Center is more important than ever. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask that you give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join me in saying the words to dedicate our offering found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are our offerings.
Okay, everyone, could you please turn for me in your teal hymnals to hymn number 1003. Where do we come from? Again, in your teal hymnals to 1003. Now, we're going to be doing this in a 4-part round, so I'm going to divide you guys into 4 sections, okay? So, pulpit side, if you're sitting towards the front, you guys are going to be number 1. Pulpit side, if you guys are sitting towards the back, you guys are going to be number 2. Organ side, if you're sitting towards the front, number 1, 3, sorry. Number 3, organ side towards the front. Number 4, organ side towards the back. Now, when I hold up your number, you're going to sing line 1. So if I hold up 1, group 1, you're going to sing line 1. When I hold up 2, group 2, you're going to sing line 1. Group 3, when I hold up 3, you're going to sing line 1. Group 4, when I hold up 4, you're going to sing line 1. Very good. All right. So we're going to sing through each line twice. The first time we're going to sing all together, and then I'm going to start holding up numbers, okay? All right, let's go.
Please rise in body or spirit.
Oh, got to. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What
Unitarian Universalist congregations have held question boxes since at least the 1950s. Now, while all preaching is intended to be a form of dialogue, the question box takes that dynamic to a different level. Instead of a sermon, the minister responds to questions from the congregation and extemporizes as best they can. So here at First Unitarian Universalist, we hold these services every couple years during the summer as a way of offering something slightly more relaxed and maybe a little more fun. We had 12 questions submitted, and we offered 2 of the questions to the kids to choose from, and they're the ones in there now. I'm going to add the others here in a second. We don't know which questions we'll get to, and just so you know, we won't get to them all, because we all have lunch to get to, or in what order that I'm going to draw them either. So let me put the more heady questions back in the box with the ones from the kids, and we'll get started.
He's making it so he can't even see what the questions are. So it's going to be random.
I don't want you to think I'm cheating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this one's from Sue Prohaska. Why has Unitarian Universalism not become more mainstream in America?
So there's a lot of different answers to this question. One of the sort of more interesting answers is that we sort of have, but have not done a good job of building our churches along the way, which is to say that universalism, which is the sort of doctrine that God saves everybody without exception, is like largely accepted as like a theological doctrine within most sort of non-evangelical Protestant churches today. And so, they just didn't become Universalist churches, right? Like I have a friend who is an Episcopalian priest of a pretty large congregation in Pittsburgh, and I have this sort of ongoing argument with him about like, okay, so, your doctrine says X, Y, and Z, so how can you really be an Episcopalian because you don't actually believe those things, because he really believes in sort of universal salvation, right? Which the Episcopalians don't, and like doctrinally don't, right? That's what their doctrine says. But he's like, well, actually the bishop and everybody else really kind of believes in universalism. So like that's sort of one of the answers. There's another sort of answer along those lines, which is there's a intellectual historian from the University of California, Berkeley, named David Hollinger, who wrote a book called After Cloven Tongues of Fire, which he traces out all of the different sort of social reforms that started in liberal churches and have come across to be sort of widely accepted within U.S. culture, right? And so all sorts of ideas and things that began in congregations, but people didn't join the congregations. It was just that the values of the congregations, like religious pluralism, permeated society. So that's sort of like one answer. There's another question then that is like, why is it that our churches haven't grown as the culture has changed? And I think one of the answers to that is that we're like not good at evangelism. Like we really don't like to go out there and invite people in. And I think another thing is that a lot of our congregations are reluctant to change, kind of to welcome more people, right? So congregation's very comfortable with sort of the style of worship it has. New and different people come in. If you're going to actually be welcoming to those people, you have to change some of what you do. People don't like that kind of change.
Thank you. All right, we had this one in the first service too. It's a lengthy one by Carl Walther. The growing number of unchurched, nothing in particular affiliated persons of low education income level may be contributing to economic, political anger, susceptibility.
Your mic is going out.
I know, I'm trying to hold it just exactly right. May be contributing to the anomic political anger, susceptibility to demagoguery plaguing our society. A conventional religion like Unitarian Universalism seems to be ideal to bring these people back into positive community relationships. Yet it seems to attract primarily the educated and progressive. Is there a way to attract these people into our wonderful and supportive UU fold?
I think that some ways that, like, the end of my last answer kind of starts to get to that. Like, we have to be willing to change and think about doing things differently. There are Unitarian Universalist congregations that have become, over time, sort of more multiracial and cross-class. But, like, I'm thinking of the Community Church of New York, which at one point in time was a very large congregation and is quite diverse. And I think one of the things that they really did was they, like, start to think about like how it is that they can not just sort of serve themselves, but serve the, like, wider community, and how they can do like intentional outreach and programs to folks. So they were very involved in social reform movements that were really designed to benefit, like, the mass of society. So they were involved in founding the NAACP, the ACLU, many labor unions, that sort of thing. And I think that having that kind of outwardly focused programs can really help. One of the things I'm excited about is we're doing a labor song and sing-along here for Labor Day weekend that we're working on with the Gulf Coast AFL-CIO. So I'm excited about that, and I'm hoping that that can be one of the things that kind of helps with that sort of thing.
Good. Good. I have to hold this just right. I know. Suprahaska. Do we have what it takes to really speak to people in a way that brings them in? There's a theme. Especially young people.
So not all of the questions are along these lines, but
I
apparently
know. We just happen to be picking the ones along these lines.
So yeah, and I feel like Sue, I'm supposed to say, "Come on down, you're a winner," like that in the, like, game show host mode. Yeah, I think just kind of really thinking about how we can talk to people in different ways or communicate with them. Like, one of the things I'm excited about along those lines is our Spanish language ministry. It's very small and just kind of getting started, but I think being in a city where 40% of the people speak Spanish as a native language, it's really important to kind of offer that avenue, even if it's, even if we get 25 people at a service as opposed to however many are, here now. And I think that, like, sort of just the more we can think about different venues, different ways to offer up our message, really will help. So.
All right, let me see if I can find something that's on a totally different topic. Ron Cookston asks, what is the greatest challenge that we, as a unique collection of people, pose for your ministry? How can we make that?
Well, I think one of the things that's fun about serving this congregation is that answer changes on an ongoing basis. So, my first year here, really right after Reverend O'Connell's negotiated resignation, I think that there was sort of two things. One was just sort of kind of putting a steady hand back on the church administration, and then also dealing with the very complicated situation of the multi-site ministry, because for those of you who weren't here at the time, we used to have some satellite campuses, and that provided some challenges that were rather unique. And then, the next year was the pandemic, so that was a series of challenges that was quite interesting. And then towards the end of the shut-in phase of the pandemic, we wound down our multi-site ministry, and the congregation that was out in Richmond became an independent congregation again. So, you've got that, and then I think now we're a congregation that's started to grow again, so there's sort of challenges around what does it mean to be a congregation. We have this new vision and mission that's really, I think, challenging us to think about how to be a more multicultural, multi-race congregation, so that's a bunch of interesting things. And then, of course, we have this big capital campaign. So lots of interesting things, challenges with all of that. Not to mention living in Texas, which is its own challenge. And, how can people help? I think that part of the answer to that really is folks who have been in leadership and around for a long time figuring out how to step back and support a newer generation of leaders, like really bringing those people into the leadership of the congregation, especially as the congregation grows in diversity. That's just a really essential thing that needs to happen. So, Ron, go make a friend with somebody who's new and mentor them onto a leadership position.
That was the word that popped in my head, mentor, because I think that would be hugely valuable. We are going to sing a song and give Reverend Colin a break, and then we'll come back to answer some more of these questions.
Right. So can you all please turn in your teal hymnals to hymn number 1020. I believe this is a song you guys all know. So once again, please turn in your teal hymnals to 1020 and join and rise in body and or spirit as we sing Well, Yeah, Yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going to be, but we know it, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough. We'll get heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are
All righty. Derek Elliott asks, what is the significance of samad, I practiced this too, samadhi, and how may it be applied to our everyday lives?
So it's a Sanskrit word, and there's a lot of different understandings of what it means in different traditions in the Indian subcontinent. So I'm not exactly certain what sense Derek intended it in. The sort of one that I'm most familiar with is, right, so let me just back up. So people from different yoga traditions might understand it one way, people from different Buddhist traditions might understand it another way. So the version that I'm most familiar with comes from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who practiced something called engaged Buddhism, who we'll be talking about later in the year again. And he thought of it as concentration. And so he had sort of 3 steps to his mindfulness practice, or sort of overlapping, but 3 phases to mindfulness consciousness, and I'm not going to attempt the Sanskrit. So awareness, concentration, and insight. And so awareness, you're aware of what you're doing. I'm aware that I'm here seated in this chair, aware that I'm breathing. Concentration, I then focus on what it is that I'm doing. I'm concentrating on, like, I'm not just aware, but I'm like concentrating on what it means to be here. Not means, feels to be here. So I'm concentrating on my breath. I'm concentrating on how the chair feels against me, what it feels like to hold the microphone. And then insight. As I have this concentration, I have some sort of insight into what it is to have this awareness and to have this concentration, right? So I could have an insight into, the way sound travels through the sanctuary and kind of how that provides an experience of interconnection, or an awareness of how my breath, connects me to time and rhythm and to my body and to all the breath of all other living things, or whatever, right? So that's the way Thich Nhat Hanh understands it. I don't know sort of what the larger, or what variant I was supposed to sort of be reflecting on beyond that. So I hope that helped or answered Derek's question.
Mary Cook asks, how do you maintain your faith?
So it's a difficult question. I think I'm going to sort of offer 2 thoughts on it. One is that I have a regular spiritual practice that just sort of keeps me centered and grounded. So I read for about 30 minutes in the morning, scriptures from different traditions, some poetry, some Unitarian Universalist theology, and then I work in my journal for about 15 minutes after that. And I also take a nap, which is every day. People who know here know that it's like, oh, Reverend Boston's off to take his naps. And so that's part of like my regular spiritual practice, which keeps me centered and grounded. But faith, I think faith often means like hope, or hope for sort of is synonymous with like hope for transformation or salvation or something better. And that's, I think, a hard thing right now in a lot of ways because of the political situation, because of the heat dome Texas is trapped under, because of divisions in society. And one of my mentors, the folk singer Utah Phillips, used to talk about the view from the top and the view from the bottom, which I've always found to be a very helpful way of thinking about it. He said, if you look at society from the view from the top, things are often like pretty static. The big social changes that we're kind of like hoping are going to happen, expansion of civil rights, expansion of Medicaid for all, housing for all, these sorts of things, they like come, if you're lucky, something like that comes once every generation, if you're lucky. So a lot of times it feels sort of hopeless. But if you look at, the view from the bottom, there are people who are doing things all the time that are really moving society along, to building the sorts of world we want to see. And those there might be small changes, there might be local changes, maybe they just affect like one person's life here or one person's life there, but they can add up. And if you look at those things, you'll find hope and faith that things can be better. And when I think about that, I often think about Grace Lee Boggs, who's from Detroit, who I knew a little bit, who is a philosopher and activist who will also be looking at later this year. I guess this is some teasers for upcoming attractions. And Grace lived in Detroit most of her life through the 20th and all to the early 20th century, and saw the city go up and then saw the city really go down. And saw the sort of big abandoned plexus of decaying neighborhoods and joblessness and kind of desolation and decay of the city. And at some point, she was trying to figure out what is it that we're going to do about this. What are we going to do about this? At some point in the late 70s or early 80s, she met an older man who had been a sharecropper in someplace in the South in the 1930s and had moved to Detroit and was like a master gardener. And he was like, well, we have all this vacant land here. Why don't we start just some community gardens, right? And they did this, and it really sort of sparked much of the urban agriculture movement in the United States. It took like them a very long time, but there are like whole chunks of Detroit now that are like beautiful urban gardens where like doing that to those communities, the crime rate went down, some people found jobs through the gardening, some people sort of gained skills that they could take elsewhere. But you know, if they had been like thinking, what is this huge change that we're going to do, they would have never gotten anywhere. Instead, it was sort of this little incremental thing that eventually added up significantly.
Very nice. We have time for one more. This is from Tawana. What led you to the Unitarian Universalist faith?
Aha. Well, yeah, on some level, the question really is, why did I stay a Unitarian Universalist? Because I grew up in the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Greater Lansing. And so there's a few different reasons why. One, I mean, growing up, it was where a lot of my community and friends were. So like because I was very involved in youth group and then very involved in college groups. And so like a lot of my friends were Unitarian Universalist, and when I would move to a new city, I would like go to a church and see people that I had met through different, activities or whatever. So that's sort of one simple reason. But I think two other things are our tradition's commitment to social justice, which I very much share and have found that our churches have a real capacity for social change and for social engagement that I very much appreciate, and then our sense of spiritual exploration, and openness. And so those three things, I think, are what kept me a Unitarian Universalist, and I think brought me into being a Unitarian Universalist minister. So,
Thank you. I think this was fun, so hopefully we'll do it again, if not next summer, the summer after.
Time for one more hymn, everybody. If you could please turn in your gray hymnal to hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple." Once again, that's number 16 in your gray hymnal. And as some of you are already doing, please rise in body and or spirit and join us for hymn number 16. We will sing it twice through.
Please join me as we extinguish the chalice, reciting the words found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let us leave this place ever open to the mystery, the questions, the riddle that is life. Let us be confident as we leave that there is a community in our lives where we can inquire after the known and unknown and share our journeys together. Go in peace, go in love. May our lives be a blessing. Amen and Ashe. Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.